nightmares. Three Forks, Montana. A little town just off the I-90 freeway and surrounded by nearby rivers, Three Forks is the kind of town most people just stop by for gas on their way through the state. Still, life for the locals in a small community like this is very close. Everybody knows everybody, and everybody is in each other's business. Sometimes, this can cause arguments to escalate to the point of no return. January 15th, 2022. At 3:28 in the morning, Gallatin County Sheriff's Office and the Manhattan Police Department received several phone calls reporting a shooting in the town of Three Forks, near 6th Avenue and Ash Street. Responding officers arrived at the location approximately 20 minutes after the first call was made. It was on the intersection of these two streets that officers found the bodies of two dead males laid out on the pavement. Police began investigating the crime scene, examining the evidence and pondering any possible motives. After analyzing the bodies, deputies identified the two victims as blood brothers. Brendan Estabrook, 32 of Three Forks, and Chase Estabrook, 31 of Butte, Montana, a city an hour west of Three Forks. According to eyewitness accounts, there was a verbal argument and physical altercation in the area a few hours prior to the shooting. Words were exchanged, alcohol was involved, things went too far, feelings were hurt. The two brothers were both shot to death in cold blood, and according to the sheriff's deputies' investigation, this was no random act of violence. Instead, it was a premeditated act of vengeance. Several witnesses were standing around in shock and horror after witnessing their friends being slain in front of their very eyes. One of the witnesses told deputies that the shooter was a young man named Zach, who was hanging out with the group of boys and the victims earlier in the night. The witness providing this information was a bartender at the Sacagawea Inn bar. Apparently, both victims and their group of friends were all drinking at this bar earlier in the night. Having fun and relaxing with a few drinks, the group of boys agreed to return to one of the friends' house after the bar closed at 2 a.m. After cleaning and closing the bar for the night, the bartender witness arrived at his house at around 3 a.m. to meet the two victims and their other friends. When the bartender arrived at the house, he noticed that Zach was arguing with the two brothers. He then saw them begin to fistfight, which continued to escalate. Their friends shouted and yelled and told them to take it outside, which is exactly what happened. Outside, the two brothers continued to fight Zach near the driveway. Beaten and bleeding, Zach retreated while shouting profanities at the brothers before walking away. The bartender friend who witnessed this believed the fight was over at that point. However, Zach, being highly intoxicated and angry at this time, returned to the front yard to challenge the brothers again. The friends shouted and yelled at him to go home to stop provoking the situation, but Zach was angry and wanted revenge. The two brothers began chasing Zach again down the street, where the fight continued near the intersection of 6th Avenue East and East Ash Street. As the bartender witness walked towards the group fighting, he heard several loud gunshots, approximately 5 or 6, followed by a few more gunshots. The witness froze in fear and shock and saw Zach fleeing the scene on foot as the two brothers laid on the ground. As the three witnesses ran over to check on the victims, they saw they were losing large amounts of blood fast and began to call 911. The witness, who was a bartender, also told police that the shooter had used a credit card to pay for his drinks earlier that night and went with the officer back to the bar to show him proof of receipts and identify his full real name: Zachary E. Norman. The two remaining witnesses also provided statements indicating that Zach was with them and the group of victims earlier at the bar. They also said that Zach had left his car on scene in the driveway. Deputies located a Dodge Charger with Montana plates, and after running it through their database records, they found the vehicle was registered to Zach's father. Zach's legally listed residence was also the same as the registered address, providing the homicide detectives enough information for a lead. Deputies arrived at Zach's residence, where they made contact with him and his family. Zach was immediately arrested before being transported to the Gallatin County Law and Justice Center. Detectives also requested a search warrant for his residence in an attempt to locate the murder weapon. At the county jail, homicide detectives conducted an interview with Zach after reading him his Miranda rights. Zach told detectives that he and a friend went to the Sacagawea bar at around 7 to 8 p.m. for dinner and drinks. They were having fun and the night was young, so they decided to go to the local Teasers Gentlemen's Club nearby. Zach told detectives that after having more drinks at the strip club, he began to black out and could not remember the rest of the night. He claimed that he only remembered being waken up by his father, who told him that law enforcement were at the door looking for him. After being questioned about his firearm, Zach stated that he usually carries a Glock 19 9mm handgun concealed in a holster. He told detectives that he always carries his gun with a bullet in the chamber and usually carries 2 magazines. However, he said that he could not find his gun and could not remember if he was carrying it during last night's shooting. As detectives continued to interrogate Zach, he was evasive and provided many inconsistencies in his retelling of the events. Detectives were now skeptical as to whether he was intentionally providing false or misleading information, or if he was truly too intoxicated from last night to remember what had really happened. At some point during the interrogation, Zach admitted that he returned to the Sacagawea bar at around 1 a.m. He also admitted that he was carrying his handgun, concealing it within the holster in his pants. Detectives continued to press Zach about his inconsistent story, to which he revealed that at some point in the night, he was drinking in the garage that belonged to one of the witnesses. After returning to his house after the shooting, Zach was in a hysterical state of mind and in shock. He ran into his father's room panicking and shouting, which awakened his father. Zach's dad began asking Zach what had happened, as Zach continued shouting profanities and not making sense, visibly hysterical and upset. Shortly after is when detectives arrived at the residence and arrested Zach. After securing the search warrant and searching the entire house, deputies located a black Glock handgun in a plastic holster located next to a water heater in a closet. They also found wet clothing in a bathtub, which happened to match clothing descriptions provided by witnesses, describing Zach as wearing the same clothes during the shooting. Zachary Norman was held in custody and charged with 2 counts of deliberate homicide. July 2023. As trial began for this double homicide, Zach's legal team claimed self-defense. They claimed during the physical altercation, Zach feared for his life and believed that he was greatly in danger during this fight. trial, video footage was played in court, showing Zach extremely intoxicated at the bar with friends and the victims. Zach was so drunk, he was seen on video almost falling out of his chair in the bar. After the bar closed around 2 a.m, the group moved to a house party nearby. Zach was described as being extremely drunk, loud, and obnoxious at this time, which annoyed the others at the small party. They told him to go home, which Zach refused. This caused an argument to break out, with everyone telling Zach to just go home and sleep off the alcohol. Zach protested, which caused the 2 brothers to confront Zach, leading to a physical altercation. During the second fight that had moved away from the house, things became more intense and violent. The punches being thrown during this second escalated fight were more intense. Zach was being beaten badly before pulling out his pistol. One of the brothers shouted, "No, no, no," before several shots were fired. Brendan was shot 8 times throughout his body and fell to the ground. Chase was shot in his hand, wrist, and neck area. The bullet entered his neck and severed his jugular, causing profound blood loss in a short amount of time. It was then that Chase staggered 5 or 6 feet before collapsing on his brother. Both brothers quickly bled out from their gunshot wounds. When the time came for the jury to place their verdict, there was mixed feelings among the juror pool. The jury found Zachary Norman guilty of tampering with or fabricating evidence, but was hung on the 2 charges of deliberate homicide. Zach's self-defense lawyers painted a solid portrait for the self-defense angle and described Zach as a good kid who had too much to drink and was overwhelmed when fighting 2 strong brothers. The jury vote was split, 10 for guilty and 2 not guilty on both counts. The mother of both victims spoke with local news media and described her family's reaction to the decision as disappointed, however respectful of the jury's decision. She was hopeful for a retrial and that the prosecutor would choose to pursue Zachary again in a follow-up trial. Zach Norman was held in custody as prosecutors prepared a retrial with a different strategy. They were more aware this time of how skilled Zach's legal counsel was, and they knew they had to secure an airtight conviction if they wanted to keep Zach behind bars. June 17, 2024. After a retrial and new jury, Zachary Norman is found guilty of deliberate homicide in the death of Chase Estabrook. However, he was not found guilty in the death of Chase's brother, Brendan. According to prosecutors, they believed this was due to the fact that Zach and Brendan were physically fighting when the gun first came out, which is why the judge decided to side with the defense on that count as it was more debatable. The 25-year-old was sentenced 100 years in Montana State Prison with the eligibility of parole after 25 years. After being sentenced in front of the court, the victim's parents approached the stand to make a statement for the defendant. The mother of both sons, Kim Finn, looked Zach in his eyes from the witness stand, stating, "If you ever leave prison in anything but a casket, I hope and pray you have the fear of constantly looking over your shoulder." After confronting the killer of her sons, the boy's father approached the stand in a shocking turn of events. Roger Estabrook calmly and coldly told Zach that he had planned to kill him today in the courtroom. He said that he had snuck in a homemade shank into the courtroom during the trial and hid it somewhere in secrecy. He said he wanted to kill Zach out of revenge for taking the lives of his 2 sons. Law enforcement quickly escorted everyone out of the courtroom in order to search for the weapon. However, they never confirmed whether any weapon was found. As court continued, Zach took the stand and expressed sympathy towards the victims' families. "It's been an emotional 2 years," Zach said. 2 years filled with pain and anger and hate, and I think all of those emotions are warranted and well understood. Do you believe the sentencing was justified? Or should the defendant have been sentenced to less or more time? Do you believe the shooter really feared for his life and danger during the shooting? What do you think could have prevented these killings? Let us know and comment below. Like, share, and subscribe for more.